Hi, welcome in our series of AI in education. And I'm super excited today to have Dr. Alex Morris Wood with us. And he is unique because he's with Franklin Academy and he is the head of school at Franklin Academy and he works with neurodivergent students, which is so fascinating. And he's also on the board of the College of Autism Network, and I cannot do him enough justice, so I'm going to turn it over to him to talk a little bit about his journey and how you ended up with this very interesting and specific group of students that are so fascinating. I would love to hear how you're working with AI with these students.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I'd be talking about technology, I think my staff would laugh at me. But we've come pretty far. A large part of that is because of the great work I get to do at Franklin Academy. Really quickly, Franklin is a private boarding and day school in East Haddam, Connecticut. We serve 100 neurodivergent adolescents, grades 8 through postgraduate. We are a college preparatory school. While about 95% of our students do go off to college, we also have a really robust career preparation model. So we could really prepare students for the outcomes that they want. And our students defy outcomes all over the place. They graduate at double the national average in higher education. And I really feel like they leave our school with a really great sense of self, which is why I'm here at Franklin as head of school. It's why I came back. Really quickly, before I was head of school, I served as a vice president of Beacon College, which is one of two exclusive colleges for students who learn differently. And funny, I actually started my career at Franklin Academy, so it's like returning home. So I've only worked in the space of educating neurodivergent students, and it has been the highlight of my entire career. I think my platform really aims to provide equity and access to education for students and their families, and to provide an educational environment that gives our students everything that they rightfully deserve. I like to say at Franklin Academy, a student does not have to give up anything to come here, whether it's athletics, the arts, technology, you name it, we like to try to do it. So thrilled to be here today, Tina, to talk a little bit more about, as head of school, how I use AI probably in a non-traditional way. Because as we were talking about in earlier conversations, I learned how to teach at a whiteboard. We didn't have technology yet when I started my craft. So it's been really interesting to go from educator to educational administrator.
Yeah.
As technology was really at its rise. So thank you for
And do
having
you
me.
think, so I was going to ask you, do you think technology is the great equalizer, right? Because to some degree, the way that you interact could be it's very linear, right? So it's almost creates a level playing field for every student.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true, but that seems to be, you know.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, because it's so fascinating that you said that, because I took this first when you started to talk about the great equalizer. I thought about it first as an educator, but for our students,
Yes.
what it has done, for so many years, technology has allowed for our students to have the availability and the accessibility to learn in complex places, whether that's a live scribe pen, the use of a recording device
Yeah.
in a lecture, just even the use of a computer to write an essay. I mean, you think about these fundamental accommodations that are covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act for people in higher education or the workforce. And we don't think about that as technological innovations as
Yeah.
much as we probably did 7 to 10 years ago. So now, I think what it has done is it is for our students, yes, I think it's a great equalizer if you have access to the technology, and that's a whole other conversation around socioeconomic backgrounds. In the educator world as a leader, I think AI and technology is the great differentiator. It actually does not, it really shows how you've been introduced to it, how do you strategically use it, how do you avoid it, and then the parallel process, how do you teach our students that? So I think it's actually kind of fascinating to look at those two worlds of great
Yeah.
equalizer and great differentiator.
I mean, it just came to me when we were talking because I thought about, the fact that all kids now want, I mean, I'm not saying they're going to have it, but they want to have their phone and they want to have their pads and they want to have, the mother of a almost 12-year-old, it's a constant battle, right? So,
Yeah.
but I think that it's how those tools can be applied, both on the education perspective, like teaching the kids, but
Yep.
then also from the kids' perspective, you know, like they can watch TikTok videos as well as everybody else. It's
Yep.
like, you know, they can follow
Absolutely.
along with the dance moves and, whatever they can do. It's just, to me, that's what I was talking about. It's like, hey, technology can be wonderful as well as it's about what you do with it, I guess is what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
And I
Yeah.
think it's also how are we assessing our students' utilization of it? One of the things
Yeah.
that we did at Franklin Academy this year is while we can quantifiably evaluate our students in terms of grades and test scores, things like that, all of these other skills that are embedded into our instructional environment also need to be assessed. So
Yeah.
technological literacy to technological management, we now have a rubric where we're evaluating our students in those areas so that we can actually take a giant step backwards and say, like, this is normal. We
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
not scared of technology, but it
Right.
is our job as educators to instruct how best to use it, both academically and socially.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we're going to evaluate you to see how ready are you for the next step. Because I'm very fortunate coming back to the high school from higher ed. I watch students so reliant on technology, whether that's, Google Classroom or Moodle or Canvas, and then they pivot to higher education, and that shift in the utilization of technology like a learning management system throws those students off so quickly. And if they don't have those other foundational skills to support technological implementation, their likelihood of retention and academic success will decrease. So it's
Yeah.
our duty to teach those skills just like we teach reading, writing, conceptual thinking, math in a scaffolded and tapered way through evaluative assessments.
And one of the previous hosts was talking about was retention. Like how hard is it as a teacher to ensure that the students are retaining the information when they're learning it potentially from a technology driven tool?
Sure. But, it's an interesting point because, as a school of all people that learn differently, the
Yeah.
concept of retention of information is an ongoing dialogue. So we have been multimodal forever, right? And you're just adding in, like, how to utilize technology to create a multimodal learning environment to recognize that acquisition of information, how information is stored, what are you doing with it? What is your working memory thinking looking like? How do you output that information? That is the ethos of really good education. And so
Yeah.
incorporating technology about how to support working memory and then application of skills is an everyday dialogue and part of a lot of our unit plans because we might have the brightest student and that has a really poor working memory. And if we don't think about the utilization of technology as an accommodation to support later application, then we're doing our students a disservice.
As you think about, like, I mean, technology is obviously growing, expanding. It's a living microcosm right now, right? So, I mean, what do you think are some of the challenges that we face as a society? Like, I mean, I'm in this space, and every single day I hear about new tools that are coming out,
Yeah,
which is why we don't customize anything because
sure.
it becomes obsolete by the time you finish. So, how do you think, what do you think are the significant challenges that we face as a society? And then as you sort of think about the school, like where do you think the challenges might be in the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head right there. It's so overwhelming to keep up with. So as a society, I feel like we're making these like really polarized statements of we're either for or against technology as a way to mitigate our own anxiety around the things that we don't understand. I will be the first to admit my comprehension of technology is pretty limited. It makes me anxious. So when we're anxious, we try to regain control. We're going to make a positional statement. So I think that's part of the dilemma. I think as an institution, what I've noticed as a boarding school, especially, some of our dilemmas are we're on a 75-acre campus. when do we incorporate that students can have their cell phones or not? There's a
Yeah.
safety component to it. The classroom is a little easier to navigate. You could put a cell phone box and put that away. It's the milieu that we're
Yeah.
responsible.
Yeah.
We also have to recognize that families, what I love about Franklin is that the family involvement is one of our key tenets at our
Yeah.
school. And so I have some families that are really restrictive around the access and utilization of technology, and others that are completely for full, access to technology. So to try to create one school at those polars is
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hard,
Yeah.
while also instructing everybody to say, well, in 4 years, that kid's going to have their cell phone, whether we like it or not, in a college
Right.
classroom. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I think those are hard. And I think you said something earlier that I want to come back to about what's difficult is, when do we incorporate the student perspective in all of this?
Yeah.
Right? So, there's so much text out there, obviously, in research that young adults are more anxious than ever before. And that's,
Yeah.
who's that coming from? That's coming from our generation. We don't have like a task force around technology with our own students. So I think what's going to be really important at Franklin and other schools is providing space to give for the student voice around something that directly impacts them.
Yeah.
Because when we do that, then we'll have the full picture of how do we create an environment where technology is both taught, evaluated, supported, and scaffolded.
Yeah, I mean it's really interesting because, I think, as a parent, I try to have an open mind, right?
Yeah.
You want to have an open mind, but there are some things on on some of the platforms that the kids go to that you kind of go, is that in the kids' platform? Like,
Yeah.
and they kind of figure out how to get around stuff. So, it's challenging for all parents and all kids, I think, at this moment. Now, I think what's different about neurodivergent kids are you have them in in the Franklin Academy. You have a great opportunity to build those minds because you have them 24/7, basically.
Sure.
And that's, I think, an incredible opportunity and responsibility, right? Because both.
Yeah.
So as you think about opportunities,
Yeah.
we sort of talked about challenges, but where do you see opportunities in the next few months as
Yeah.
well?
I love that. Thank you. I mean, yes, all that made me just give me chills a little bit, because that's exactly the benefit of a boarding school. And for our neurodivergent students, and truthfully a lot of other students, we have the opportunity of not just teaching technology, but we get to teach social skills. We
Yeah.
teach, what does appropriate participation look like in the classroom, out of the classroom? How do we communicate? How do we think about other people's perspectives? So what I love about Franklin, we do have a built-in social emotional curriculum as a part, and as not just a part, as graduation requirements at Franklin.
Yeah, that's
We're
fantastic.
getting, yeah, it's amazing, because what we're
Fantastic.
doing is not saying,
I mean, every kid should have that, by the way.
I go to colleges and high schools, and social isolation is the number one concern.
Yeah.
And what we get to do at Franklin is have dedicated time, no screens, to just talk about the fundamentals of social reciprocity, emotional health, distress tolerance, to conflict resolution. And then my favorite that we do is like that code switching, right? So like,
Yeah.
when is it appropriate to be like, I'm going to take out my phone and show you a TikTok, and not do that to me as head of school, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
how
yeah.
do you teach those social,
Yeah.
product skills and relationship skills? So to me, it's a constant opportunity to really talk about teaching the whole student,
Yeah.
and not just everything in elements. We also work with our students on things like sleep hygiene and resetting when you're stressed. I think one of the big opportunities that we have is that because they have a dorm room here, so if they're uncomfortable, they have this place to escape to.
Yeah, yeah.
But what's the difference between resetting and avoiding? And how does technology play into that role, right? So
Yeah.
we get to be the conduit of these beautiful conversations that I wish I was having at 14 and 15 years old that are getting them ready for lifelong success.
I was thinking the exact same thing, Alex. I was thinking, my God, we didn't have that level of conversation. I mean, parents didn't know how to have those conversations. I still don't think, I think it's a very difficult thing for a lot of parents to have those
Yes,
conversations.
I agree.
And I also think that there's a reason that kids are so isolated nowadays, and it's hard for parents now because the kids' social circle is online a lot of times, and so you have to introduce sports, you have to introduce other things that gets them away from the screen
Sure.
because they naturally want to be in front of the screen
Right.
24/7 if you let them.
Sure. Well, if you think about this generation of young adults, right? So when does social learning happen? That's, when we're 10 to 12, 13 years old. For a lot of my high school students, their first introduction to social learning happened through technology, how we're talking
Yeah.
through technology. So to let's reduce the blame that like our kids are just addicted to technology because of X, and let's remember that that was for many of them, instead of a school dance, they had a Zoom get together,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Like so
yeah.
so to think that like to give credit to a bunch of adolescents to get them to be able to think that abstractly is really just not fair. So it's our responsibility, like you said, to provide those opportunities, but to listen to the students about what those opportunities are. So at Franklin, we use a strength-based approach. Our clubs change every year. We might add different sports because this adolescent generation is always changing. It's our job to be malleable and change with them. So if we want them off their computer, got to listen to what they want to do differently.
I
And that's
mean, the one thing I will tell you is it's incredible how what that social expansion has done. They have friends all over the globe,
yeah,
right? So, and it's very natural for them. Like, I came home and my daughter was on Duolingo trying to learn Dutch. And I'm like, she said, well, my friend is from a country that speaks Dutch and I want to communicate in Dutch with him. And I was like, I was taken aback initially. Then I thought, I think that's wonderful.
sure.
It's just incredible, like that.
Yeah.
That the world is becoming so small in one sense. It's just like incredible that you can literally have friends anywhere across the globe, and you don't even know. Like you jump on, they're playing games together or something. They're having conversations, and the next thing they become best friends, and they're halfway around the world.
Yeah. So I think what we get to do at Franklin is teach them those online safety skills as
Yeah,
well as the similarities and differences between a virtual and a live friend. But you also bring up a really good point.
yeah,
It's like that technology could be a unifier of students. So let's look at, name an adolescent that doesn't like video games. The best thing Franklin did was we created an esports team. It is our largest group of students,
that's great.
and what the social skills they're learning around competition, conflict resolution,
Yeah,
teamwork is way more than I learned as a competitive athlete my entire life. And it's in a high interest area. So now these kids have friends and
yeah,
they're doing a high interest task while getting covert social skill instruction, which is always the best way to teach, is that covert,
yeah,
that leverage to our very first named classroom at our school was an esports area, because all of a sudden a kid who has never had friends has all of these people that he gets to hang out with multiple times a night over video games.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
How's that?
It's incredible. It's incredible. It's so exciting. I mean, that's why I say, I feel like even though my career was financial services and education, but grown-ups, I'm just fascinated with this topic, which is why I wanted to start this podcast series, because I think it's just so, and it's very timely, right? People are wrestling with these topics today, which is why we had such an overwhelming response to.
Sure.
Yeah, because people were just like, we want to hear what other people are doing. We want to understand how people are approaching it, because all heads of schools are approaching it completely differently depending on, social circumstances, budgets,
Yeah.
constraints, things like that. And it's very enlightening
Yeah.
how different the approaches are. But I also feel like there's some pretty core fundamentals that don't change.
Yeah. Yeah, institutional priorities really should take everything into consideration when you're talking, like when I know as a head of school, I'm using AI, right? So for me, the most important thing is to not lose the personhood in communication. And working with families and with students, it's really about relationships. So once it feels like it's a plug and play email, or I mean, you can tell when you
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
a newsletter and you lose the humanistic element of it, you've now lost
Yeah.
the idea of connectivity. So to me, I have really firm boundaries about where I use AI to support institutional priorities and where I will not use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not going to put up a student's file in ChatGPT and say, summarize a neuropsychological evaluation. Like, there are some fundamental core beliefs that we have to have.
Yeah.
But I am going to use it when, I think this is really important. As a head of school, I'm also a human with emotions. And when I get that email that causes anxiety or causes stress, for me, AI has been so helpful of like framing my thoughts, taking the emotion
Yeah.
out, being
Yeah.
a little more objective, slowing me down to say
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
let's think before you send. And
Yeah.
what a great model for my team to have. So grappling around it in terms of the humanistic element of it is really important.
Yeah, I mean, I use it all the time for to me, it's a wonderful organizer of thoughts.
Yeah.
So I tend to be, all over the place in terms of thoughts. And I feel like one of the things that AI has done for me is really organized me in a way that, it's increased my productivity dramatically because when I'm focused, I'm kind of like very, very focused, and it's
Yeah.
saving me hours of work, right? It just, you tell it exactly what you want, you tell it the tone that you want, and then,
Yeah.
but I think writing, whenever I've done posts that are like I've told it what I want, but then it's created it, and the time that I've written posts, it's like dramatically different in terms of the
Sure.
response. So,
Yeah.
people, I think neurology, is one of those things where they can sense it's written by
Sure.
someone other than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think part of that is also understanding your own style, right? So, like before I worked as a head of school, I worked in enrollment, marketing, sales. I don't need somebody to help me create a tagline.
Yeah, yeah.
I need help. I'm a fast thinker. I have been in this field a long time. Sometimes where I use a lot of AI is saying like, let's take this complex topic of teaching flexible thinking in the classroom. I have all of these thoughts, but like you said, how am I going to distill it down so that a first-time teacher hears it, a veteran teacher hears it, there's a product that comes with it that connects my team together. It allows for me to take some time to think about how do I want to deliver a message to people rather than use it as a way to connect to people.
Yeah.
I also think for me, you said it earlier, like knowing your budget. I mean, I name an independent school head that's not worried about a budget, right?
Yeah.
So, and I feel bad saying this to anybody that's in marketing and digital design and architecture, so I apologize in advance. I don't have a budget to go and do a full rebrand of a school right now, right? So, using AI to say, create a professional image of this kind of thought has
Yeah.
allowed for us to become more legitimized in our next phase of expansion. Or the other day, I took a picture of our student center that I want to remodel as part of an advancement event. And I'm like, I want you to do this, this, and this. It made it all together. And within 48 hours, I presented that to a prospective donor, and there was excitement.
Yeah.
I don't have the capital funds at this point to hire out for that. So, like, using it as a budget saver has probably been the smartest thing I've done as a head of school.
Yeah, because it has so many applications, right? And
Yeah.
you'll need the architectural
Yeah,
design.
we will need at some point. Yeah, but I need somebody to give me money for that
Yeah,
part.
exactly.
Yes,
You need the general framework.
we need to get there. Yes, I'm not
I get
there.
it. I
Yeah,
get it. I mean, that is the perfect use of AI.
yeah.
It's the
It's
perfect use.
not taking away the expertise that eventually you'll need. It's building excitement
Yeah.
in an advancement effort so that somebody else can support me and get me that really good architect, right? I'm not, and I think everybody that I've talked to that they've seen that recognizes that's the purpose.
Yeah.
It is so hard. So I inherited a campus, right? So my campus has been around. We're on a beautiful 75 acres surrounded by state parks, but our buildings are from the 1960s and 70s. I have a vision. I could see it all, but explaining a vision without a
Yeah.
image
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
really hard. So using AI to like get these abstract thoughts into a practical image has been a game changer
Yeah.
as a head of school. And I think for anybody that's in an early stage of advancement and development should incorporate that to build donor cultivation and to build a vision for your school.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff. I mean, I am so excited about the way that AI is being used, and I feel like one of the reasons I wanted to have this chat with you is because I think in our previous conversation, I'm like, oh, I feel like you're using it exactly in the way that I can completely relate to, and I think a lot of other heads of schools will be like, I could do that, because I think everyone's kind of we talked about trying to figure out how to use it, and I think using it in that way, I mean, I'm a big advocate as well of using it for operational efficiency, right? So, but I also think that that's the kind of operational efficiency I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
it's
like,
not taking away our work, it is
yeah,
enhancing our productivity. It's
correct.
also preventing future problems. So, you talk about the concept of operationalizing. The world of special education is full of jargony terms that, like, who knows, right? So you say things like, everything has an acronym. You like think about an IEP and you're like, a student will do something 6 out of 10 interval. Like nobody knows what any of this means. Let's use AI to create a uniform language so that everybody gets it. So I've used it to say like, help me create uniform definitions for our 9 domains of executive functioning so that parents could relate to that. So when your kid goes home, you have some examples of how you could incorporate these strategies during school breaks. To
Yeah,
me,
yeah,
what a great use of AI. So I'm not spending hours coming up with definitions.
yeah, yeah.
It's all there.
It's perfect. Yeah, it's wonderful. So I think this has been like very, very interesting, and I hope that this has been a great platform for you to talk about Franklin and the amazing work you're doing.
Well, thank you.
I'm so thankful that you took the time to spend some time with us today, and I will, as we wrap this up and clean it up, we'll make it available on the platform of Tina's take on AI, but also for you to use on your site as well.
Well, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having Franklin Academy and myself here today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Woods. Hang on a minute. All right. Yeah, that went great.